everything's fine in PBL land.
Our interns are all happy.
Yep.
They're all great. Everything's good. Everything's good.
Yep.
Shut up, Rodrigo.
It's one of our new guys. Hello and welcome to another spooky edition of Popcorn Bucket List. We called this the bare bones episode. We don't got a lot to talk about here, so this is the skeleton episode of Popcorn Bucket List. I don't have time to make like a special graphic or intro. Just use your magic. It's
the Halloween themed.
It's It's the pre-party Halloween themed episode of Popcorn Bucket List. But yeah, like I said, not a lot of news coming out this week.
Nothing.
So for our opening spotlight, being that this week is the premiere of Halloween Ends, we thought we'd talk a little bit about the Halloween movie timeline. I did this kind of as like a joke, just something to kill time. But then as I was researching it last night in preparation, I was like, this timeline is confusing.
Very confusing.
People need to know what they're getting into with this movie. So yeah, we were talking before, you have seen all of the Halloween movie timelines.
Even the Rob Zombie ones.
Even the Rob Zombie ones. I have seen very few of them, because again, not a horror guy. So you're going to kind of be able to fill in the blanks here as I can try. As I kind of try and, we'll try and explain this to everyone.
Yes, we'll do it together.
For those of you out there who have seen Back to the Future, the scene where he's explaining the alternate timelines and everything, kindergarten level stuff. Compared to what we got here today. You better get your notepads ready.
Yes.
It's going to get weird. So 1978, the first Halloween comes out thanks to John Carpenter and producer Deborah Hill. Arguably kind of reinvents horror, kind of invents the slasher film, although you could say stuff like that had been happening. They even said they were kind of inspired by Alfred Hitchcock and everything, but
not to this level.
Yeah, not to this level, exactly. So that occurs in 1978. A couple years later, Halloween 2 comes out. So far, we're still pretty normal for a movie timeline and everything here.
Yep.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Just forget about it. It doesn't connect to anything. It's
Michael Myers isn't even in it.
He's not in it.
And this was actually like one of the first few. I think I didn't see them in order. I think I saw the first one and then the third one, and I had no idea what was going on. It's like a pumpkin head, and it's like going like this, and I'm like, how is this related?
Would be really confusing, though, if you had seen Halloween 1 and 2, and then this one not knowing that this was not connected or whatever.
It's goofy. And actually, I remember I rented it at the local library because as a kid growing up in my youth, we did not have a lot of money. So when I wanted to rent movies as a kid, I went to the library and rented movies there. When actually the Marshall Public Library did have a very great movie selection, and I do owe them something because I rented a lot of movies from there.
That's a pretty good PSA for Marshall Library.
Yes.
Hit us up for a promo. Continuing on. So Halloween 3, just ignore it. Forget about it. Doesn't really count. Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. We continue down this timeline to Halloween 5 and Halloween 6. All very original titles. We got The Return, The Revenge, and The Curse of Michael Myers.
Yes.
Anything noteworthy in that there? Part of the timelines and whatnot?
You see his mask change a little bit, whether it's
It got to that really cheap-looking thing, didn't it?
Yep. You did notice his mask. This might be a controversial take, but I actually prefer the Rob Zombie mask.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. You're jumping ahead of me here.
Yeah.
We got enough jumping around here in this timeline as it is. Don't confuse me too much. So that is essentially the Laurie is dead continuity. Now let's rewind the clocks a bit here. Back to Halloween.
What's
2.
Loki? We need to reset the timeline.
We need to reset the timeline. That's right. We're gonna split into a tangent here. So let's go back to Halloween 2. There's another now hypothetical timeline that splits off from this one where Laurie is alive, and we get Halloween H2O. No, this is not Michael Myers versus like mermaids or something in the water, which I was kind of disappointed. The H2O stands for like Halloween 20 years later, where Laurie is still alive and she's confronting her brother again. That's actually something I think we should mention right here and now. In this timeline and the one we just previously mentioned, Laurie and Michael Myers are related, brother and sister, correct?
Correct.
So that's something to keep of note here, as we'll talk a little bit about that later. So now we have 2 separate timelines, technically 3 if you include Halloween 3, which is its own universe.
That's
or
its
whatever.
own thing.
And then we get Halloween Resurrection of 4 years later, and that is the end of that timeline. So from splitting off of Halloween 2, you could either if you're trying to watch these movies in order and you get to Halloween 2, you have 2 options. You either skip to Halloween 4 or you skip to Halloween H20.
Yep.
So good
and
luck with that.
H2O is kind of a different one. Like there's a house party and like the video camera. It's just a weird installment in this.
And you already alluded to it earlier, the Rob Zombie films. This is another timeline, not even connected to any of the others. It is just a movie of the same name, coming out in 2007, Halloween and Halloween 2, coming out 2009, made by Rob Zombie. You said you prefer these ones. Why?
I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say they're superior, but I really like Rob Zombie. I first came across him as a musician, and then I learned he was into filmmaking, and I like the music he makes with himself and with White Zombie. Awesome music, and his videos are very. I'm not comparing him to Quentin Tarantino. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm saying he's kind of off-brand like Quentin Tarantino, where you can tell
him to Quentin Tarantino.
No, you can't compare anybody to Quentin Tarantino. You can't do that. But he has his own style that when you're watching his movies, you tell, oh yeah, this is a Rob Zombie film, just because of how bloody and weird and gross and like just kind of off they are. And I really like his movies for that. And I enjoyed his. Well, at least the first one for sure. His first take on Halloween, I thought it was great. Michael Myers, to me, was a lot more scary, a lot more domineering. He was bigger, he was more physical, and I really like those. I like Rob Zombie. I like his films, and I didn't see. Okay, I could see all the negative pushback from him, but I still enjoyed him. I liked him.
Then we move on to what is the 5th timeline, essentially, of this movie franchise. Like I said, way more complicated than you'd think here. 2018, Halloween comes out. It's the same title as the first movie. I hate when horror movies do this. This is not the only one that does this.
They just did a Friday the 13th.
They did it with Scream. They did it with that. They did it with this.
I don't like that.
Just call it something else.
Because now it's like...
It's confusing.
Now you're watching Halloween. Well, which one?
There are 3 movies in this franchise that are just named Halloween.
Garbage.
Yeah, it's confusing. But this is the continuation directly from the first Halloween movie. So now we're skipping everything. Halloween 2 does not happen. None of the others. Halloween 3, none of that. Anything.
None of the Rob Zombie, nothing.
Also, this is the one where they retcon the big thing that Laurie and Michael Myers are not related. However, they still have this, I guess, rivalry. That sounds too sporty. One's trying to kill the other, and then the other's trying to kill them back in revenge. They have this bloodlust for each other, I guess, maybe. Because of what he did in that night, 1978. She's always preparing. She's getting ready. She knows he's going to escape. She wants to get revenge on him and kill him. And that's essentially the plot of this 2018 Halloween movie. But it's a whole new timeline. It skips Halloween 2, everything that happens after that. Like Dr. Loomis, who's a big part of these movies, still exists, obviously, because he was in the first movie. But he doesn't have as much of an impact on this timeline because none of 2, 4, all that happens. Which actually is kind of something I was thinking about when I was kind of looking into this, because I was rewatching clips from... I was watching a video that was going over Halloween Kills, which is the next movie in this timeline, and there's all these references and callbacks to these other movies, but then the narrator is like, but I mean, yeah, these are fun references, but they're to a timeline that doesn't exist in this movie. Like they're referencing these lines and all that. Like, yeah, that's a funny callback, but is Like
Makes
one
no
of them,
sense.
one of them even is like, "This is for Dr. Loomis." I'm like, did this person even know who Dr. Loomis was? Is he that big of a person in this timeline?
Yeah.
He's in one movie technically. Anyway, so moving on with this timeline, we move on to Halloween Kills, which came out a couple of years ago, and then Halloween Ends. It looks like all three of these movies are taking place on the same night.
Yeah, it's a very weird continuation almost.
This is the longest night of a horror movie I have ever seen.
They've done some where one movie takes place in one night or one day.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And
That's
then
fun. That's a fun idea.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, now there's a couple movies that take place on that exact same night. Interesting.
Does nobody
Now
go to bed here? Like,
Yeah.
by the time Halloween Ends starts, it's got to be like 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
From everything that went down.
Sun's coming up.
Sun's going up. Yeah, that's
real
going to
quiet.
be the opening of this movie. But speaking of Halloween Ends, let's just move on to the weekly preview here. That's the timelines. That's all of them. If you're looking into this movie that we're talking about here, all you have to know is the events that took place in the very first Halloween movie in 1978. I have to add the dates because, again, half of these are named the same thing. And then Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills 2021, and then Halloween Ends coming out this year in 2022. Perfect segue into the weekly preview. Nailed it. No notes.
Boom.
And then I tripped over myself. I bragged a little too much, and I tripped over myself. This movie is coming out in theaters and Peacock side by side, released there. Say it with me, everyone. Evil dies tonight is what they said in the last movie for like 40. If you made a compilation of every time someone said Evil dies tonight in that movie, it would take up like 40 minutes of that movie. And guess what? Spoiler alert, he didn't.
And that was the thing. They said it so much. I remember we said that to each other as a joke for a while after the film because it was, how many times can you say this in here? I thought they said winter is coming a lot in Game of Thrones. No, not even close to Evil dies tonight.
But at least in Game of Thrones, winter actually did eventually arrive.
Yes.
In this one, Evil didn't die.
Evil hasn't died yet. Is it going to die this time?
I'm going to put my money on no.
Yeah, yeah.
What else do we think about this movie? I mean, you have Jamie Lee Curtis returning. Another thing with that last movie was it seemed like this whole trilogy right here, it's been this whole buildup of Laurie's finally going to get revenge. First movie, it didn't happen. Second movie, she even has a rousing moment where she like takes pain meds, sticks it in herself, and she like goes berserk for a minute.
Yep.
And I literally mean a minute because then she's out for the rest of the movie. Because they're building up, oh, she's finally going to get him. And in this one, again, they're building it up again. She's finally going to get him. I want her to. Let it happen. She earned this.
She did. I don't know. Obviously, I'd like to say that they're going to do it, but as a motif for all horror films, the bad guy never really dies. So is she going to maybe kill him and go live off peacefully, and then we get a cutaway of him coming out of the dirt? Who knows?
If these multiple timelines are any indication, that's what it's going to be. Here's my theory. It's theory time here, movie theory time. So one of the big things with the first Halloween movie was it, like I said, it kind of reinvented slasher film. It introduced the idea of the final girl of horror movies. You see this all the time. There's the final female that stands up. Everyone else is dead. This was really a big thing of Jamie Lee Curtis's career for a while. She's kind of known as the first final girl, so to speak. Here's my theory. They're going to play into this final girl thing. By the end of this movie, Michael has killed everyone in this town. So when she's the final girl, they mean it literally. She's the only one left in this town. And then she finally kills him.
Okay. If it's anything like that mob scene in the last movie where...
You laugh. Mobs have tried. He's taken down 20 bodies in like a minute.
Yeah, and they're all standing around him. Guy's got a gun. Doesn't
the cop
shoot him.
is pointing a gun at the dude. Michael Myers isn't a good killer. These people are all just stupid.
Yes, exactly. Which I could see him taking out the whole town that way.
I could say I'm joking, but it's plausible.
It's bad.
It's plausible.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
What's up, guys, and welcome back. Today we're talking about the Marshall 6 Movie House. We are excited to announce we have some new screens up at the old movie theater. A couple of screens are new. They're going to be brighter, going to be clearer, going to be better for watching those horror films as we move into the season of Halloween. It's going to be great. Make sure to check the times, check what movies come in. Who knows, might get some old movies. We don't know. But make sure to check them out, and we'll see you at the movies.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
We do have a special second release we're going to
Yes,
talk
we do.
about here. Marshall 6 Theater, special shout out here, a limited release, but it's coming here to Marshall 6. Running the Bases, a sports movie. One of those kind of got a Christian message behind it too. Seen a couple versions of this. High school coach trying to reinvigorate a team, tries to bring in a Christian sort of angle to it. I don't know. It looks all right. The principal character, he slaps a kid at one point. in the
I think he
trailer,
does.
doesn't
Yeah, I think he's that's some abuse right
Yeah.
there.
We've had a lot of talk about abuse
We
here.
have,
You've claimed I've mentally abused you, and then I threw it back at you and like, well, actually, it's more the other way around, and that's my way of gaslighting him.
This is a loving group.
Yes, and this clip is definitely not so we can send it to our HR department and convince them that everything's fine in PBL land.
Our interns are all happy.
Yep.
They're all great. Everything's good. Everything's
Yep.
good.
Yep. Shut up, Rodrigo. It's one of our new guys. But yeah, it's a good sports movie. Baseball is obviously in full swing, pun intended,
That was
right
good.
now. So if you're looking for a baseball movie, go and check that out.
The one thing I did have with the trailer that really made me kind of angry was there's a shot of him running from third base, and he instead of just running home, he runs to home and rounds it and is going to first base. And that made no sense to me. I don't know why he's doing that. I don't know what's happening, but just watching somebody sprint to home and then round to go to first base was very weird. Very weird.
Maybe he
to
thought if
see.
he kept going, he can get 2 points.
I
Has anyone
don't know.
tried that? Is there a rule that says you can't do that? Has anyone? That could be a loophole. We might have reinvented baseball right here.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
None of this
folks.
starting on second base,
Yeah.
none of that. No.
Yeah. Next time you see a New York Yankee win a game because they just kept running and got more points, you can
us.
thank Nick and Ryan right
Yep.
here. But let's move on to number one recommends. Ryan, I'm gonna let you go first. You actually got something this week.
Yeah. So I don't remember how long ago, but I talked about the movies that made us. It was a Netflix show. They have another show called The Toys That Made Us. Now, my wife and I, we've watched the Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Legos. They got pro wrestlers, My Little Pony. They got all kinds of just shows that are talking about toys that are kind of nostalgic for us. They're a little bit more of those older 90s toys, maybe even 80s toys. They have one about Barbie. It just kind of goes the history of how it got popular and why it got popular and kind of where they're at today. And Lego has had a very interesting career because they were not a Lego company earlier. They were a Lego company. They were not a little plastic. They were a woodworking thing, and then they almost went bankrupt, and then basically talked about how Lego kind of is so intertwined with the film industry because a lot of Lego sets come out for films, books, all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. They're kind of short. They're only 40, 50 minutes. So, I mean, they're not terribly long, but they're not 20 minutes either. But good little informative show.
So a little flip-flop here this week. You've been very busy the past few weeks. Haven't been able to watch much. I've been reprimanding you behind the scenes.
Yep.
That might be why HR's calling us and everything.
Yeah.
But shoes on the other foot here this week. I was super busy, so I don't have anything to recommend here. Should I do it? No, I shouldn't do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to shameless plug. We're going to shameless plug ourselves here. Reason why I was so busy is I've been working on a docu-series with the SMSU Theater Department. Another version of Peek Behind the Curtain has come out, hopefully by the time this episode comes out. So check that out on our YouTube channel. They put in a lot of hard work over there. I put in a lot of work to get this together. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but go check out their shows. Go check out this show if you feel inclined to. And you were talking about a documentary that's not quite 20 minutes. Mine's only like 22 minutes. So
Perfect.
It's just
Perfect.
Just saying it, just throwing it out there, just whatever.
Yep.
But that's going to do it for us on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List. Let us know what you've been watching recently, so that way myself and others can get some film suggestions. And we do talk about TV shows, too, every once in a while. So don't feel limited down there when you let us know what you've been watching. But for myself and Ryan Meyerberg, we'd like to thank you so much for watching, and evil dies tonight.
Yes.